So this is the iPhone SE 2, second generation special edition, came out in 2020. It has the body of the old iPhone 8 from 2017, but with some updated specs. Since Apple recently dropped the iPhone SE 3 as a replacement for this one, it's no longer available for grabs new from Apple, but that also means it got a significant price drop. Now, you can get it renewed from Amazon for just $240, which is, in my opinion, a steal. And that's a big difference compared to the original price of $399. So, is it still good today in 2022? My name is Peja, by the way. I do tech reviews and stuff, so let me know in the comments below if there's a particular smartphone you would like me to talk about in the future. But for now, let's start off with some basic specs. iPhone SE 2020 has a 4.7-inch LCD display. It's powered by the A13 Bionic chip. It comes in 3 different storage options: 64, 128, and 256 gigabytes. Single 12-megapixel camera on the back, 1800 mAh battery, IP67 water and dust resistance up to 1 meter for 30 minutes, stereo speakers, great haptics as usual, and above everything else, home button and Touch ID. And that leads me to design. Like I mentioned in the beginning, it has the body of the old iPhone 8 from 2017 with some updated stuff, but the body itself is basically exactly the same. The only visible difference between the two is the color. Kind of. It's actually still the same color. With these two, for example, just a different shade of black. Everything else is identical. Button placement, that isolated mute switch, even the SIM tray, everything is exactly where it was on the iPhone 8. So if you really like that old school design with these thick bezels and that home button, then this one is a no-brainer. Basically for anyone that has an iPhone 6, 6S, 7, or an 8, and you still want to keep that compact design with the home button and Touch ID, this is a great choice. Now for me personally, it does feel a bit outdated in 2022, and hopefully the SE4, next year's model, will have the body of something like an iPhone 11, maybe a 10R, maybe even one of the minis, since those are going to be discontinued probably this year. So it would be amazing if we could see the iPhone SE4 with the body of something like an iPhone 12 mini. But hey, that's just my opinion. Maybe you really like the old school design with the home button and that's what you came here for, in which case this one is great. And I can definitely appreciate having Touch ID, especially in the past couple of years with the masks and everything. So it is a good option to have currently. When it comes to the display, it's a 4.7-inch LCD display with 625 nits of brightness, the resolution of 750 by 1334, and a pixel density of around 326 pixels per inch. Now this display, definitely not one of the best out there, but I'm guessing you knew that coming into this video. It is a smaller screen, it's not OLED, it doesn't have those deep blacks, and it doesn't have a really high resolution. But on the other hand, for an LCD display, this one is pretty good. You really can't compare it to something like an iPhone 13, but for what it is, for what it's expected to do, it does a great job. Colors are really nice and accurate, and even though it's technically not HD, it definitely looks pretty sharp to me. Since it's not that big, you can't really see the lack of pixels on it, and it's still pretty sharp. It has a decent level of brightness. Now outside in direct sunlight, you may run into an issue here and there, but in most situations, it's a pretty decent display. The display is one of the areas they had to bring down a bit, and it's basically the same screen from the iPhone 8. Now when it comes to performance, that's a different story. A13 Bionic chip is still top notch. It's the same chip you can find in the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max, and in 2022, it's still really good. It's absolutely smooth, there's no lag, no stuttering whatsoever. It handles everything you throw at it really well. And like I mentioned in my 11 Pro review, this chip is actually in the new 2021 iPad, not the mini or the Pro, just the regular iPad. So you know it's still strong enough if Apple decides to put it in a new device that came out just last year. So this one is still pretty fast and pretty reliable, and in my opinion, it's going to stay like that for the next couple of years. So when it comes to performance, this phone is no joke. Same story on the software side of things. It runs iOS 15 just like any other iPhone does, and it's going to be supported for at least 3 or 4 more years, if not more. So there's nothing much to say about that. You're still going to be covered, and Apple covers their devices for longer and longer each year. So this one is going to be good for the foreseeable future. If the iPhone 6S from 14 or something like that still has the latest version of iOS, you can bet that this one still has a couple of years left in it. Alright, cameras. Like I said, a single 12 megapixel f1.8 wide lens on the back, records 4K video up to 60 FPS, 1080p video up to 240 FPS, and on the front you got a 7 megapixel f2.2 camera that can record 1080p 30. let's just get the front-facing camera out of the way first. It's fine. It takes selfies. If you point it at your face, it's gonna take a selfie and your face is gonna show up in the photo. That's basically it. It's not amazing, but it's also not bad. Moving on to the main one. When it comes to the main camera, even though it's the same old sensor from the iPhone 8, like everything else on this phone is, since it does have that updated chip, this one can punch out way better photos because of technology and algorithms and computational photography and all that stuff. Basically, it's a good, reliable camera. Again, not top of the line. You don't get the ultra wide or the telephoto lens with this one, but still, if you give it enough light, it's gonna do a great job. It doesn't support night mode, unfortunately, but you do get portrait mode. And still, great dynamic range, great colors, pretty sharp. It's like a basic iPhone camera with a couple of less features, but still it does a great job most of the times. It's still reliable. And what I like about the iPhone's cameras is that you don't have to tinker too much with them. You just point and shoot, and 9 out of 10 times the results are great without too much effort on your end. So if you want to use it as your family camera, you want to use it on, taking vacations and just snapping some casual photos with your friends and family, it's gonna do a great job. Now in the video department, it actually holds up pretty well. Again, no night mode, and in pretty dark situations it may struggle a bit because it is a smaller sensor than on the newer iPhones, but like I said, if you give it enough light, it's gonna do an amazing job. Again, dynamic range, colors. So if the 13 Pro is a 10 out of 10, this one is like a 7.9. It doesn't have all the features of the latest flagships, but it still does a good job in most situations, and you will be satisfied with the results overall. Okay, so it had to come to this at some point. The battery. Now, I'm really not a power user. I don't game a lot and all that stuff, so I might not be like the best judge of battery, but this one is okay, I guess. Definitely not great, but it does get me through the day. Now, if you're gaming, if you're using GPS a lot, or if you're using your camera a lot, like I said, to me, it gets me through the day, and that's all I'm asking for on a phone. Basically, what I use my phone for is social media and texting and emails and stuff like that. And for that use case, this battery is just fine. But if you're, like I said, a heavy gamer, you use GPS a lot, you use your camera throughout the whole day, you might run into some issues with it. So definitely take the battery into consideration depending on how much you use your phone. It does support 18-watt fast charging, which will give you around 50% in 30 minutes or so, and 7.5-watt wireless charging. So do I recommend you buying this phone? I don't know. It may be the perfect phone for you. Depends on what you're using it for. If you put your phone through a lot of demanding stuff, then this one may not be for you, mostly because of the battery capacity. Like I said, performance is definitely top notch, but battery is subpar in some situations. So if you're a real power user, you might want to skip this one. If you're looking for a compact device with better battery life, maybe go with something like a 13 mini. But if you're someone that really appreciates this old school design with Touch ID, and you just want to upgrade because your old phone is starting to slow down and maybe lagging, your battery is completely useless after years of usage and stuff like that, and you just want something that's familiar, you don't really want to get used to gestures and you don't need a huge screen, this phone is a great choice. So like I said, it really depends on you. It's not the best out there, but it's really fast, it's reliable, it has a really nice camera, and it's small, compact, and it has Touch ID. So if that's something that you're looking for in a phone, for $240, it's definitely a steal in my opinion. I'll leave some Amazon links in the description if you want to pick one up for yourself and help support the channel along the way. That's been it. Thanks for watching.